the openness come with it.
Okay, and that's what I'm hoping we can avoid with this program. That we
And also,
do something about it.
Sorry, I just say one thing.
It becomes a problem.
And also, one thing I must also say, also the fear of being sectioned, because even if you might, because in the Black community, the way we process things and manage whatever it may be, maybe trauma, may be different from the way somebody else will manage it. But with sometimes, for example, one typical example is if a Black community, if someone is bereaved or you've lost loved ones, you see what I mean? So the way you will react to that trauma or that bereavement is different from the society we live in. So that can be also misunderstood to be you're having mental health problem. You see what I mean? So
okay.
There's a lot. So there's a lot to learn, culture to culture, to learn how we as when I say we, I mean Black people, the way we process and the way we manage things. So just that once that understanding is there, a little bit, maybe more openness will begin to come to light. People will begin to come to light with a mental health problem or issue.
I think that's a valid point. That's specifically for those of you who are listening from the West, if you live in the West.
Yeah.
I think that's a valid point that she's making. And I'm hoping that those of you who are health workers and are listening, if you run a business that caters for people with mental health issues, that is something that I think you have an obligation to educate other cultures about. That the fact that we collapsed on the floor because we heard somebody die does not mean we have mental health issues.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing. So yes, I totally agree with that. We tend to be a bit more dramatic.
Yes, and the fear of and also cultures. Fear also, one thing also is the fear of being sectioned easily. So if you took for example, if you took a Black person or minority that is bereaved or have an issue to maybe the mental health hospital or NHS, people feel like they're definitely going to be sectioned, even if it's not, rather than understanding where this individual is coming from, what's happening to them, how did they get to the point. So it's so easy to section them and medicate them and all of that. So that fear also makes people stay away and just decide to keep it to themselves mostly.
All right. Now, going back to specifically entrepreneurs, because this is a business program, one of the things that I find happens amongst entrepreneurs is that there's this feeling or this belief, and I think it's a misconception. There's this belief that everybody else is doing better than you. There's this concept of fake it till you make it that we entrepreneurs we do, and we give off this persona or this aura that we've got it together, we've really got it going on. And that's not necessarily true. I remember reading recently about a lady, she's a very successful speaker in America, and she was saying before she became successful, people thought she was successful. They thought she had arrived. And she remembers, she tells a story about how she went to speak at an event. She was invited to come to speak at an event. Large crowds waiting for her at this event. And she said she actually got a cab to go to that event, and that was about the last bit of money that she had. And she said during the lunch break, she had just enough money to buy a bottle of Sprite. Now, they didn't know that. They had come to listen to her, so they thought she was, mega rich. But she was climbing the ladder. She just had an aura of somebody who had arrived. The same thing with Les Brown. I don't know if you know Les Brown, but he's one of the foremost world motivational speakers. And he was talking about a few years ago when he had fallen on hard times. He was successful, very successful, but he had fallen on hard times, but he hadn't let people know about it. So he said he was actually sleeping in his office at the time. He was sleeping on the floor of his office at the time because he couldn't afford a home. And so the concierge, the security guys of that building, it was quite a high-class building, had noticed that he was sleeping in the office. And so one day when he was about to leave the office, they asked him to come to reception. So he went to reception, and then they gave him a letter, and they asked if he would be kind enough to read that letter there. And the letter said something along the lines, "Dear Mr. Brown, please be advised that this is a place of work and not a hotel. Please do not sleep in your office." But at the time, to the whole world, he was Les Brown. He was at the pinnacle of his success and everything like that. So oftentimes we give off this aura of having arrived, of having it all together, of having the perfect life,
Fake it till
having
you
a
make
perfect
it.
home, that I think is a misconception. Can you tell us about the dangers of that kind of aura that we give off?
Okay. One of the dangers of that kind of aura is, number one, it can lead to depression. The danger of that is the self-denial. So there's a self-denial there, to deny the fact that, you know what, I have arrived, even though you haven't arrived. And also, there's a huge danger there also, feeling like you're going to be judged, feeling like a failure. You see what I mean? So, and also, there's a huge fear of the fear of being vulnerable. I must say that, you know what, because you're an entrepreneur, you're a champion in your field. And for some reason, that has engulfed the individual. So it's so easy for individual to be engulfed in, I have to always win. I have to always win. So the fear of not winning, it makes them isolate themselves sometimes, and that can lead to depression, sometimes suicidal thoughts. So even up to the point of people committing suicide. So I'll give you a scenario. You know, I don't know if you've seen this movie, the Superwoman or Superman, where the Superman will soar. You know, there's a time where the Superman will soar, save the whole world, and be very successful. And there's also a time where you look at this Superman, when it's not soaring, it's like every human being. It's very vulnerable. So that's the point where these entrepreneurs are afraid to get to. They feel like being vulnerable is actually a sign of failure, but in effect, it's a sign of fear. I mean, it's a sign of strength. So being able to show to the world that, listen, at one point I'm successful. Right now, I'm not successful, and it's okay. So it's accepting the fact that it's okay. You see what I mean? So in other words, if you can be in that mindset of it's okay to be up and it's okay to be down, building back is not a struggle. So that's self-denial, denying self. Do you know what I mean? So not being kind to self. So when that happens, when they come to that mindset or that frame of mind, there's a lot of isolation, because they are ashamed what people will, because they've already put out this persona that they're very successful. When things begin to crumble, rather than confront, they isolate themselves away from people. The fear of being judged. You see what I mean? So the fear that someone.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's true. I think also we have to redefine what this whole concept of success is. Because as far as I'm concerned, the whole thing is a journey. From the days where, you know, my husband and I couldn't afford enough food, and we sat there eating Gary. For those of you who don't know what Gary is, Nigerian staple food. We were literally eating Gary because we couldn't afford more food. The whole thing is journey, from there to buying our first house, to buying a second house, to starting businesses. The good, the bad, and ugly is all part of it.
It's all part of it, but it's accepting it.
Part of it is relevant.
Absolutely.
So not until, as far as I'm concerned, success is not defined by, okay, I can finally afford a 5-bedroom house in Mayfair. That is not, for me, that's not
absolutely
the sign of success. The fact that you keep getting up in the morning and going for it, that is success.
Yeah, I must also
say, you are keeping food on the table, that is success.
I must
the
also
fact that you failed at something and you got up again and tried again, that is success.
Absolutely. Yeah. I must also say that the thing is, success is defined in a very broad way by everyone. So if success is defined in that way, there's competition, there's so much attached to it. So what might be helpful would be individual defining what success is to them. You see what I mean? Rather than define success by, well, I'm looking at Bibi, she's got A, B, C, D, I want to get that as well. So if I define my success by what I see you do, it makes it difficult for me to go to that, to accept myself, go to that difficult place. So if I define, so if I have a definition of what success, for some people, success means having $1 million in the bank and having 10 or 20 houses. For some people, success means just having a roof over my head and there's food on the table. So individuals have to come to a point, entrepreneur, where they define what success is to them, and also looking into it. Before you started the journey, what you look at is how I want to go on this journey. For example, I want to invent. I want to be a business person. I want to be an entrepreneur. Now, what is the drive? If that makes sense. What is the drive? Is the drive because I saw someone doing it, that's why I wanted to do it? Or the drive is, or is the drive is personal? Like, it's a personal drive that I have. So if it's a personal drive and it's well defined, so even if it's failing, because the drive was coming from you in the first place, it's easy for you to allow things to just happen the way they happen, and it's okay, because you'll be in a place where you can accept. But if the success is, or if the drive is because someone is doing it, or someone asked you to do it, or someone motivated you to do it, then you're looking up to that person. You don't want to fail them, and that put added pressure on you as an entrepreneur. I don't want to fail so and so and so, because I want to look good. I want to make people see that I'm successful. So so everyone goes back to defining what success is to you. So if you can, if you can define.
I think that's a good exercise for every entrepreneur to do, to define what does success look like to me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that helps you. It even helps you stay in your lane.
Absolutely.
Like said, I don't have to have what you have.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have what I have.
And I'm successful.
Yeah, I'm successful. I'm successful. Yeah, I love that. Thanks for that. Thanks. Okay. I just wanted to go over this, actually. I was listening to a GP. A GP is a doctor.
Yeah.
I was listening to a doctor recently, and she was saying that she reckons that 80% of the patients that walk through her door presenting with a physical problem actually have the root of that problem in an emotional or mental health issue. Okay. The root of it. And I remember a time some years ago when I was going through a very difficult time in my life, and I suddenly broke out in some crazy looking eczema all over my hands and my arms and things like that. It was really, really bad. Yeah. And I did not make the connection between what was happening to me physically and my mental and emotional state. I didn't make the connection at all. So when I was referred, when my doctor saw it, my doctor immediately referred me to hospital. When I was referred to hospital and the specialist saw me, the first thing the specialist said to me was, "You are under some unbelievable stress."
Stress, yes.
What is going on in your life? So, I found that interesting. I didn't realize that there was a connection between that. What are your thoughts on that? What is the connection between our physical health and our mental health?
Okay. There's a saying that goes, you are what you eat.
Yeah.
So taking that to the other point, I would like to say mine to be, you are what you think. So if you have a mental issue, for example, you're dealing with stress, maybe from any situation, any struggle, you're dealing with any kind of stress, as often as you sort of stay in that place, if I may say so. So if you have a struggle in your life, for example, you're struggling with, let's just say you're struggling with your business is not going well. You see what I mean? So as long as you stay in that thought process, are you following me? So as long as you stay in that thought process, it affects your physical well-being, because it takes over you. So you find out that leading from that, you have palpitation of the heart, you have everything racing uncontrollably, you have stress, you have depression, it leads to insomnia, you don't sleep well, or it's either you don't sleep at all for some people, or you sleep less. So a lot of things, you have anger, a lot of things just come from it. So as long as you stay in that place, we call it a low place. So as long as you stay in that place, these things will carry on happening. So because you didn't know, you went to your GP. I suppose your GP referred you to a therapist or to speak to someone about it. So what is usually helpful is when people have any situation in their lives. Because did you know at that time? Don't mind me asking. Did you know at that time what was happening? Did you address what was happening to you then, or how?
Yes, I did.
How did you?
I did. It was just that at that point I wasn't making the connection between the physical symptoms and what was going on in my life. I didn't know that they were related.
Yeah, it's very hard for people sometimes to connect that. When things are happening in your life, we deal with the symptom, we deal with the actual symptom, not the underlying issue or the underlying factor. So because people don't know, the underlying issue is buried. So we deal with the symptom. So for example, if someone was struggling with alcohol, the underlying issue, if the underlying issue isn't dealt with, we'll be dealing with the alcohol situation. So what am I saying? So it's about speaking to someone, understand what's happening, understanding what has changed in your life. So what's going on in my life? How do I get to this place where I am now, where I'm beginning to deal with this stuff that's happening in my life right now? So if we can address what is happening in the here and now in our lives, you see what I mean? So that, that doesn't mean that what the effect is will still won't happen. That doesn't mean you won't have the breakout of whatever is happening in your life. But then you can manage it. You can understand that where I'm dealing with what's happening in my life. So anything else that is still going on is extra. So I have to attend to that physically with the GP. So taking care of your mental well-being, people taking care of their mental well-being is very, 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 very important. It can lead to a whole lot of things that people are not aware of. Okay. So it's very important to take note.
All right. We're going to take a very short break now. And so if you have any questions, I'm going to deal with them immediately afterwards. Thank you, Annette. So far, it's been really, really enlightening. Okay, we'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you once again for joining us on the BB Means Business show. And today we are talking about mental health and entrepreneurship. We're looking at the connection between traits that can lend themselves to mental health issues and creativity, but also what you can do, what you need to do to recognize the signs that your mental health is deteriorating, and also dealing with the underlying effects of that. And so to help us on the show today, we have a special guest, Annette Isibo, and she was just enlightening us just before the break on the connection between deterioration in physical health being an alarm bell or a red flag about something that's actually happening in your mental health. Okay, there's a particular area that I want to talk about, and this is not often spoken about, but it's really, really important. I was listening to Tyler Perry the other day. For those of you who know Tyler Perry is probably the most successful black man in Hollywood. He's built up an amazing film producing, film writing, film directing, acting industry, and he now owns the biggest film studio in America. He's a black guy, and he was talking about he's often been quite vocal and open about how horrible his childhood was and the bad relationship between him and his father, and how he carried unforgiveness for his father for many, many, many years. And I'm talking up until about into recent years. Okay. And he spoke about how when he finally was able to forgive his father, how certain things began to change in his life. Now, I was also watching a YouTube video, and they were talking about now the medical field has now made a connection between unforgiveness and breakdown in mental health. And I found that fascinating because, again, it's not something we often think about. But I'd like you to shed a bit about that, Annette, if you may. What is the connection, and what are we likely to be seeing if somebody is harboring unforgiveness in their life? And I'm hoping, dear God, that if this is a problem in any of our listeners' lives, that this will be your prompt to deal with it. Yes.
So unforgiveness in itself, when you have unforgiveness in your life, it controls you. Wow. So it's like taking paracetamol for somebody else's headache. So what it is like, for example, someone
say that again.
Taking paracetamol for somebody else's headache.
Okay.
Yes, so that's how I phrase it. So it controls you. So it takes hold of you for as long as you keep that unforgiveness. It controls you. Number one, if that individual's name is ever mentioned, it takes you to a very low place. Are you following me? So unforgiveness in itself eats you up. It slows you down. You see what I mean? It slows you down. It eats you up. It just makes you, because every time you're wishing ill, because if someone does something to you and you haven't forgiven them, every time their name is mentioned, your heart rate goes up. So it's very important. But if someone does things to you, the way I often say to people when they're dealing with unforgiveness is to sit with the individual and have a conversation. It doesn't mean that you are right or they're right, or you're wrong or they're wrong. It's just allowing yourself to offload. So you're carrying this heavy. It's like carrying a huge weight on your shoulder, on your shoulder, and you're going everywhere with that weight. In therapy, we call it holding. You're holding whatever it is that person has left with you. So this individual might just be getting on with their life. They've even forgotten what happened. They don't even know if they offended you. But then you're carrying this heavy weight on your shoulder. So the reason why he would say something like, when he finally confronted, or when he finally let go, it was like a big weight lifted up off him. So that thing was compressing this individual, because there's unforgiveness there. Because it deals with the mind, it deals with the heart, it deals with the body, controls everything you do, controls your emotion, sometimes even go as far as controlling you physically. So it's very, very important that as much as possible, people will do things to you that if you have your way, you don't want to forgive them for the rest of your life. But then you're not holding them captive, you're holding you captive. You see what I mean? So
I've heard somebody say, unforgiveness is a prison that you are holding the key.
Absolutely. You've built up the prison, not just holding the key. You've built up the prison, you've locked yourself in the prison, and you're holding the key. So you have all of this responsibility to take care of, like open the prison, you know what I mean? Let yourself out and destroy the prison. You see what I mean?
I hope so much that the entrepreneurs that are listening will take that on board. And the reason why I say that is because I know from personal experience, and I'm being quite transparent here, I know from personal experience that unforgiveness, like you said, slows you down.
Absolutely.
And it so affects your creativity. As an entrepreneur, you cannot afford to have that.
Absolutely.
Our success is built on creativity. Our success is built on birthing ideas. Our success is built on strategizing. And for as long as you give your mind and your emotions over to unforgiveness, all that is clogged.
Yes.
All that is
so what one thing is like having a mansion, but somebody else has the key. You have a mansion, you're free to live in it, you're free to go from room to room, but somebody else has the key to the mansion, even though it belongs to you. You see what I mean? So yes, so it's like reclaiming. So to take hold or to get hold of your mansion back, it's like going to take the key back. So letting yourself go. So it takes hold of and it doesn't help anyone to function. So when you have unforgiveness, even though, because things will happen, what tends to happen from my experience working with people, they may think, well, this individual did such and such to me 20 years ago, I've moved them, I've forgiven them. No, you haven't, because every time that situation challenges you or there's a trigger, you react to 20 years situation. You might be watching a movie and something comes up that relates to what you're dealing with. That's a trigger, and all of a sudden you go to this very angry place, you go to this very very static place where you're all over the place. So you're not able to coordinate yourself properly. So that can become, in effect, that can be a part of mental illness, because at that point you can't relate to yourself, you can't relate to anybody, you're all over the place, you're irrational in your thoughts just because of somebody else's what you had with somebody else long time ago. So it can affect and it can take any individual to a place of depression. It can stress you out. You see what I mean? Even if that individual, even if they're dead, as far as you remember, yes.
Yeah.
So it's really
what you just said is quite important. I was about to say that, because you initially said that you should try and sit the person down. It's not always possible to do that. Like you said, the person might be dead, but I've often found that doing something like writing them a letter helps, even if they're dead.
Yes.
Write it a letter, exactly how you feel. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't try to make yourself look good.
Absolutely.
Write exactly how you feel about it in a letter. And then sometimes you might just burn the letter.
Yes.
Or, that kind of thing. But it's a symbol of letting go.
Yes. And letting go, number one, to let go doesn't mean don't have any expectation that this individual will apologize if you wanted to confront them. So don't have the expectation that they will apologize. Just feel within yourself, you know what, I'm okay. So if they apologize, then that's bonus. So, but if you have the expectation like, well, I'm going to confront them, I'm expecting them to say I'm sorry, and if they don't say I'm sorry, it doesn't change that feeling. So when you approach with the expectation, I'm not expecting you to say I'm sorry, I just want to offload that negative energy that I have within me. I just want to let you know that you did me wrong. I'm not expecting you to say I'm sorry. But if they say I'm sorry, then that's bonus. That's an extra bonus, yes.
Okay. This is really, I can't overemphasize this. This is really important for entrepreneurs. If you want to be working at optimum level, you want to be working at the level that you need to be working creative-wise, you cannot afford to have things clogging your mind. You cannot afford to have things arresting your mental health. And unforgiveness is one of the strongest things that can lead to mental health decline. I remember very interestingly, I remember listening to a lady a few years ago. I went to a women's conference, and this woman was very successful. She was actually a pastor. She'd be very, very successful. And she said she had been treated for anorexia for the last 20 years. 20 years of anorexia. And it wasn't until she got to a place where she understood that this actually had nothing to do with anorexia. And as you know, anorexia is a mental health illness. It presents as you stop eating, but it's actually a mental health illness. She said it wasn't until she got to the place where she realized that actually the root of this problem was that she had a problem with her mother. Her mother was a chef, a world-renowned chef. And she said she didn't get on with her mother. And the only way in which she knew to punish her mother was, because her mother loved to cook, was to refuse to eat her mother's food. And that deteriorated, that act deteriorated into a mental health illness that she was paying for 20 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are listening, it is not worth it. There's nobody on earth that is worth you being in prison for 20 years.
Absolutely.
Yes. Deal with that issue so that you can be the best that you can be. You can be everything that you're supposed to be.
And one thing I must also say, one thing that also, from my experience of working with people, especially in couples and relationships, what tends to happen is, if say your spouse offends you, they said something terrible. Maybe, for example, they say, "Oh, stupid you," and you don't like being called stupid or being told stupid. You confront them and they say to you, "I'm sorry." So I say this to my clients all the time. As soon as they say, "I'm sorry," let it go. Even if they commit the same crime again the following day and they say, "I'm sorry," let it go. Until, I know they say, "But how long will I keep reminding them?" I said to them, keep reminding them until they get it. Because it's been a habit for a long time to speak to you that way. So now you are letting them know, I can't be spoken to that way. So it take a while for them to realize that, no, she doesn't like. So at some point, it does work. At some point, if they're about to offend you, they just automatically remember, oh my God, she doesn't like it, or he doesn't like it. So giving people opportunity to treat you the way you want to be treated, so that we can cut off, hopefully, a situation that would lead to unforgiveness. So just forgiving people as you go. Okay.
All right. So you've heard that, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive as the need arises. Every time the need arises, just forgive it.
Just forgive and just keep going.
So let's move on from there. Now, let's talk a little bit about the situation in which we find ourselves in with the whole COVID thing.
Okay.
And the effect this is having on entrepreneurs in particular. They say that actually right now, the pandemic itself is not even the issue. It is the mental health decline that it is causing that is a greater issue than the virus itself. Now, what can we do? First of all, why is it having such an effect on business people, particularly those who are working from home? I find that from the business people that I speak to, those who are working from home seem to be struggling the most in the area of their mental health. Why is that?
Okay. One of the reasons why that is happening right now is when entrepreneurs start up with their event, they engulf in it. It's like having a newborn baby. You invest in the baby. You want the baby to grow well. You want the baby to be healthy. So all attention is turned towards that baby, and everybody else is neglected. Yeah. So they start up their businesses, and they engulf so much in it. So there's a disconnect between the the entrepreneur business and the home and the family home. Or yeah, so there's a disconnect there. So now that this has happened, they're struggling to connect with the home. So the home doesn't feel, yeah, it doesn't feel like home. Because I've done this for quite a few people, and I found out that what the main issue is there's a huge disconnect. So it's always been work, work, work. They work, they provide, they fly first class, they do everything else, but there's no true connection. So now that they have to work from home, there's frustration, there's depression, there's what do you call it? There's what am I looking for? There's abuse going on in the family. So parents abusing their children because there's no connection. There's spouse abusing each other. There's no connection. So now to build up that connection is a very, very huge struggle for them. So sometimes you find some even contemplating suicide. Yeah, because the one thing that they hold dearly, the one thing that meant so much to them more than anything else is the business. Is entrepreneurship, but right now it seems to them like that is taken away from them. So there's this struggle with, oh, I'm failing, even though in true sense they're not really failing. It's a coronavirus situation that has brought them to where they are. So they're struggling to accept the fact that this phase will pass. Rather than spend the time begin to make that connection once again, they're so into they're isolated within themselves. So you find that you can go to a home, they're in the house, but they're not in the house. Because emotionally, there's disconnection. So everything, all negative energy flying around.
I want to go back a little about something that you said there. I think the very first issue is the disconnect between the home life and the work. Now, I think that in itself is a good warning sign.
Yes.
That, guys, those of us who are building businesses, yes, we thank God for the ability to build businesses, but you don't leave your family behind.
Absolutely.
You have a responsibility to the business, but you have a responsibility to the home.
Absolutely.
And to build those relationships with your family members. Something you said that is quite important, that when they're at home, but they're not really at home.
Yes.
Presence does not equate to participation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The fact that you're physically present in the home doesn't mean that you are present in the home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
that has to be something we need to deal with.
Absolutely. So dealing with it, one way to deal with it is, nothing should stop you, or there's nobody who can say to you, you can't have both. I.e., when I'm at work, when I'm at my business, where in a place of my strength, I disconnect from home. And then when it's time to go home, I disconnect from my business. So what tends to happen is they come from work, they come with work to home. So you see so when you work out that, it's just having a good balance to know when to belong to a particular environment. So if I'm at work, totally at work. When I'm at home, make it count, make yourself relevant. So you have entrepreneurs, when they're home, they're not relevant, they're just home. You see what I mean? So make it count. Make yourself relevant for those, even if it's for 1 hour, make that 1 hour really relevant and count. Let the family know that you're with them, and you know that you're with the family. So it's just knowing when to shut down, when to shut the office and open the door to the home, and when to shut the home and open the door to the office, so that they both don't encroach in one another.
Yes. I must say, as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's not easy to find that balance. I mean, there are times that I have, and unfortunately, both my husband and I are self-employed. So there are times when, like, I have a deadline or he has a deadline, and we have no choice but to bring certain things.
Absolutely.
I like what you said, that even if it is for an hour, then you can say to the children, look, mommy has something that she needs to do, but you know what? For the next 1 hour, let's just play.
Absolutely.
So the children, I often find, especially when it comes to children, that it's not the amount of time. Like you said, it's the quality of the time.
It's the quality of the time. It's not the amount of time. And also, the thing is, if there's a mutual understanding, or you have a system that works. If you have a system that works, say in your situation with your husband, you're both entrepreneurs, so you have a system that works to say, you know what, there are times where we'll bring work home. It's okay, but if it becomes a lifestyle where you're always bringing home office to home, office home, office home, so there's truly no home. So in situations that we find ourselves now, you're struggling to be home because you didn't create the connection in the first place. So even
Yeah.
if it's, there are times where, yes, I have to bring work home, I have to quickly take a call, that's fine. But if it's every single day, there's no real time with the family, there's going to be a struggle. Because
Yes.
so you come home now, so you have people in their homes who are like strangers, total strangers in their home. Because
Wow.
the life before coronavirus was wake up in the morning, go to work, stay there till 7 or 8, come back home, have dinner, go to bed, wake up in that routine. So there hasn't been any really real time with the family. So adjusting to that now is a big struggle, a big challenge.
It's a big struggle, and it's, yes. I mean, we're seeing the effects. Like you said, the mental health breakdown is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we need to take this as our warning. We need to, that some of us are going to have to go and start to make amends and redefine what family life means and all that. And again, it goes back to your definition of success, because as far as I'm concerned, if I have 10 million in the bank account and my marriage breaks down because we're totally strangers, or me and my children become estranged because they have no connection with me, then is that success?
Absolutely.
As far as I'm concerned, that cannot be success.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
So everyone has to try and define what it means to them.
What it means to them.
What it means to them. So it's different, and be comfortable with that, without looking at who is saying what, who is not saying what. This is, as far as I'm concerned, having a roof over my head and maybe a nice small car, that's success for me. But for some people, it's no, that's not good enough. So it's just individual definition.
Okay.
What that means.
I'm reminded about a very sad story, I'm not sure if you remember this or not, but this is a few years ago. There's a guy called Chris Foster in the UK, multimillionaire businessman. And he took his family. He had a wife and a daughter, and they had a number of horses and dogs and stuff like that. They had this very, very beautiful house, massive mansion. And he took his family to a friend's barbecue in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And when they came home in the evening, he locked the gate and he put a horse cart in front of the gate so that people wouldn't be able to get there.
Get in, yeah.
And then he went from around the stables, he shot all the horses, shot all the dogs, then went up and shot his daughter, shot his wife, killed himself, and set fire to the whole building. And when I watched the documentary, it was so disturbing, because seemingly he had it all. He had a lovely family, he had money in the bank and everything like that. And then, they were interviewing some of the friends, and they were asking him, did you not see any signs? Did you not see any signs? Now, some said no, they didn't. But some said, in hindsight, actually they did. So apparently there was even one person, he'd actually said to that person, he was considering killing himself. Because behind the scenes, he had financial issues. And like you said earlier, he connected his whole success to the company. He was able to provide a big life for his family. That was his whole thing, his whole drive. And so when he saw a situation where it looked like he was no longer going to be able to do that, the thought of not being able to do that was just that he
was incompetent. Yes.
The signs, just in case we are a bit concerned about somebody else, what kind of signs should we be looking for?
Well, number one, you look for a sign. The number one sign is isolation. So when you see the beginning to if you have somebody who is dealing with any stuff, they don't want to talk about it, they avoid you. So when they start avoiding you, it's a good sign to question what's going on. I've not seen this one, but that doesn't mean they'll tell you. That doesn't mean they'll probably say to you, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm just working so hard. They'll cover it up. So maybe this individual was able to cover it properly. He lived in the house with the family. They didn't know, because it's not speaking to anyone about his struggle. So as an entrepreneur, it's okay to let people know, listen, I tried. It didn't work out. So so my definition of failure is, you know what, I've just discovered a way to do it wrong. That's what it means. I've just discovered if I did it this way is wrong. But some that can be that people interpret that sometimes to have failed. It doesn't mean I've failed. I've just discovered how to do it the wrong way. So I'm gonna wake up and do it the right way. But interpreting that failure or that definition or to somebody else is very difficult for them. So they keep it to themselves, because having the money, having the business going is their strength, a power thing. That's my strength. That's how I feel. I feel relevant to life, to my company and to the families. And when that is taken away from them, it's like maybe the power is stripped away from them and they can't cope.
Also, I think when somebody does confide in you that they are struggling, your response is important. Don't brush it aside. No, you don't really want to kill yourself. No. For somebody to tell you they want to kill yourself,
it is serious.
Like you said, it's not an easy thing to say.
Absolutely.
So I think yes, whatever you know how to do.
Yeah, it is serious.
Like you said, they may not tell you, but whatever you know how to do, if it means I have to go tell somebody else who can speak to them or whatever you know how to do, but don't just brush it aside. Don't think that they're joking. Don't,
absolutely.
Take it seriously.
Take it seriously.
And yes. And just taking the time to dig beneath the surface is really, really important. I mean, Once you begin to see a change in behavior in somebody, like you said, somebody's very outgoing, and suddenly they don't want to go anywhere.
Yes.
Those are triggers. Those are signs.
And you find that they don't take care of themselves anymore. You definitely notice the difference. And obviously, they don't take care of themselves. They don't eat well. They're looking absolutely. Yes. So maybe, if you don't have the tools to help them, it'd be very, very, very important to say to them, seek help, speak to somebody, give it a try. You see what I mean? Encourage them to speak to someone, maybe speak to a therapist or a professional medical individual to seek help. Yeah. You see what I mean? And also, if you can, help them determine the reason why they feel like they want to commit, what's going on in their life. Why did they feel like they're going to commit suicide? Where did that thought come from? So if you can identify the fact that they're feeling like they failed, then if you can encourage them that, no, that's not the end of the world. You build the business from scratch. You had the idea from beginning. So if it didn't work out now, you can try again. You can do that, but very importantly, to let them know that they should speak to a professional, speak to someone about what is happening in your life. I know sometimes... Sometimes coming down from that point to speak to someone is very, very difficult. If you've been a high-flying individual, all of a sudden you're struggling. It's very difficult for you now to sit with someone and say, I don't have a penny, I can't afford chicken and chips. It's very, very difficult. So that in itself takes them to a very, 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 very low place. They don't want to talk about it because they feel like nobody will believe them. They will be judged. You see what I mean? Number one, I have all this money because the thing is, even though the business is failing, they still pick up that same persona of I'm successful. So when they are around people, they still come across like everything is fine, I'm successful, business is doing well. But when they are quiet by themselves, that's when the reality hits. So that's where we want to go to, that reality is where we want to touch to say, what's happening when you're by yourself? Yeah. So importantly, the first thing you do is encourage them to get help.
Yeah. I think that's very important. I can think of a woman a few years ago who her mental health was clearly deteriorating. I could see that, and I kind of knew where it was coming from. And I remember her calling me one morning, and I was so concerned about the way she was talking. She wasn't talking about being suicidal, but just the way in which she was rambling on. I could tell that no. And I was concerned because she had young children. And I didn't want her to harm the children. Yes. So I was insistent that I was going to come over. She said, oh, no, there's no need. I'm fine.
Absolutely. I'm fine,
I was insistent that I was coming over, which I did. And when I got there, again, she didn't think it was a big deal. And I insisted that we had a GP. Apparently, she'd already been prescribed mental health antidepressant, some drugs for depression. But she wasn't taking it because she said she'd been advised by her pastor's wife not to take them. But I was insistent that I was not leaving until we went to a GP. And thankfully we went to a GP and, they changed her medication and everything like that. And thankfully she then started taking, the GP was able to remove the stigma from taking medication for depression. And then she used it and she was fine. Within a few months, there was a marked difference. Marked difference in her.
Just to add to what,
I think that's so important.
Just to add to what you're saying, it doesn't make sense to discourage them from taking medication. So I work with people sometimes, they take medication, they still come to therapy, they're doing both. You see what I mean? So with time, with time, maybe they visit their GP again, and the GP sees that they're doing well with therapy as well. Then they reduce the medication, and then with time, they wean them off the medication, because now they've been in a place where they can exclusively disclose what's bothering them. You see what I mean? They can exclusively talk to someone who will help them to manage what struggle they have. And once they can get that understanding, okay, what's happening in my life is so and so and so. So these are the tools I need to manage myself adequately. Once they understand that, they begin to manage. So when they're confronted with such situation, they know what to do about it, as opposed to go to the end. So it's For
those of you, for those of our entrepreneurs out there who are of a religious temperament, please, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with your Christian, Muslim. There's nothing wrong with you seeking help.
Medical help.
It doesn't reduce your rank as a Christian in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't make you less spiritual. If you have to go and see a mental health specialist or a doctor or something like that, it doesn't reduce you in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
You have a responsibility to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that helps me as an entrepreneur is to keep things in perspective and to know that life goes in cycles.
Absolutely.
Life goes in cycles.
Absolutely.
The business might not be good today, doesn't mean business will not be good tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying.
One of the things that I use is this too shall pass.
Absolutely.
This too shall pass.
Absolutely.
I think when entrepreneurs feel that there's no way out, this is the end of the road, then they lose hope, and there's a way out. There's a way out, but they don't want to find it because they're used to a particular way. So there are so many ways. Okay, the business is not working. The reason why you can be in that place is because you have already told yourself it's okay. You see what I mean? You said it's okay. If I'm thriving, good. If I'm not, that's fine. It's all about me. It's all about me, my well-being. It's about what it's about me. So because you made it about me, you're able to be comfortable with whatever situation you find yourself, and you can manage. So that's having a healthy mental health. You see what I mean? So where you can coordinate, where you can adapt. You see what I mean? Where you can cope with adversity without thinking. So when you are in that place, your mental health is good. But the opposite would be erratic behavior. You can't cope with people. You can't have a relevant relationship. Everything. You see what I mean? So yes. So it's about having mental health, keeping your mental health in check. Yes. Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to end it there. The bottom line is we are all susceptible to mental health decline. Absolutely. All of us. There's no shame to it. We can talk about it. Doesn't reduce you as a human being in any way, shape, or form. Entrepreneurs, if you hold on to certain things and you don't get help where you need to, it will affect your creativity, it will affect your ability to make money, it will affect your relationships. You must do something about it. The minute you begin to see those signs, immediately get help so you can begin to, as Annette says, manage your mental health. Manage your mental health. Annette, where can people get hold of you just before we go? Well, my telephone number is 07940201616. I'll repeat that. 07940201616. New Dawn Counseling and Psychotherapy. Okay. All right. I think my producer will put that on the screen in a minute. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you once again for joining us. I hope you found today useful. The message you want to get out there is do not suffer in silence. Please do not suffer in silence. Absolutely. The minute you begin to feel anxious, depressed, whatever, get help. Get help. No stigma, no shame. Get help. I must also say my fee is very, very, very reasonable. So I charge very reasonable fee, just to throw that in. Okay. Yeah, so just in case you're scared. Yes, it's very, very, very reasonable. Yes. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, stay well in every ramification. Stay healthy, stay well, stay coronavirus free. Yes. We will be here again next week. Looking forward to seeing you once again, but go make some money. Yes. Don't forget, don't let life dictate to you. Put your signature on life. And thank you very much. Much obliged. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye. Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clemens, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask.
How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from Sandway.